the drum. Let's chase success with Global.Media.com. Let's celebrate it with or without champagne.
Welcome. I don't know why I'm speaking, because all my co-hosts know more about the topic than me, so I might as well. I'll say welcome though. Thanks for joining us. If you're here, please drop us a comment so we know you're here. I had the wrong words on that opening screen. The song, the graphic was fine, but the wording on the graphic was wrong, and that irks me. But I'll get over it, right? I'll get over myself. I'm wondering whether I should just not put any words on the graphic, just let the flyer speak for itself. I might do. I'll just do that because I have to think to put the words in the graphic, right? I have to think, and he hates thinking. I hate thinking. I just don't like thinking. It's so much energy, it's too much work. I can do less by not having words on there. Just now, I might have the words 30 seconds to blast off. I'll leave that there. That doesn't change. But sometimes think of it. Everyone's remarked to think, what do I put there? Let's talk about. No, that's too long. That's too short. Anyway, all that. This is Ennis minor problems. Welcome, Michelle. Welcome, Paulette. How are you doing?
Sorry, I'm late.
You're not late.
Never late. You're right on time.
Exactly.
I was
always right on.
actually reposting it and sending messages to people, thinking I was sitting in the audience. So there you go. What do I know? But anyway, it's just for Michelle tomorrow.
You're a co-host. You can't sit in the audience. No, we can't let that happen. Anyway, glad you're here.
I'm bare.
See, everyone just slow
no
down.
makeup.
No
This
makeup.
is raw. No makeup.
You're looking glorious without makeup. You always look glorious.
And you look snatched, so it's good.
Yeah. Excellent.
Looking great.
Right.
You guys, I'm going to
Thank you,
keep mine
lovely.
off so everything stays normal, or otherwise you guys drag and I can't jump in. So I'm still here.
I'll just jump in. Just jump in.
I will.
Even without I'm seeing you.
I will.
So when you start talking, we'll stop talking. That's a better idea. Let me. I'm going to send more invites. Look, I'll keep my introduction short. I want to help people do more events so people know who you are, why you're a genius, what your genius is, why does you trust you, want to do business with you. That's my mission really. My other mission is helping people to write, publish, and sell their books. So my bestsellers. So I can help you, my friend. I'm talking to I can hear myself. So if I can help you with your books or your events, let's talk. So there's people here. Please drop us a comment. Leonardo, we see you. I see you anyway. I'm glad you're here. Let me stop talking. Whoever wants to introduce themselves, feel free.
Hello, Rio de Janeiro. How are we today?
I don't think the J is pronounced in that.
Oh, thank you. Again, speech therapy. We need to do the speech therapy one really bad.
Isn't it?
Yes, we need to do speech therapy one.
Hold on. How do you pronounce it, Michelle?
I mean, I don't want to butcher it. I just said I don't think. It was a personal opinion. I would think it would be more like the Juan type, like a Wa, not a J.
Rio de Janeiro. Okay, I can't say aluna mamam.
It fits our topic.
According to Charles, the Oracle, it's Gennaro. So we'll just.
You're
Gennaro,
fine, Michelle. You're
sorry.
fine. Both Michelle's are fine.
You're all good.
Michelle, please introduce yourself.
Hello. Let me see if I can turn my camera on here, folks, so everyone can see me. Hi, you guys. My name is Michelle Munger Bodenhorn, and we are here today to teach you about neurodivergence. Me and Michelle Ramus, Paulette Hamlin, and then the amazing Annie, that's a wizard. And that's who I am.
And like that, she's gone.
That's me in a nutshell. Thank you.
Well, I'm Michelle Ramos. It is a pleasure to see everyone. Well, I don't see, but y'all see me. I'm the founder of Delray Statistics. I am the architect of the Legacy Blueprint in DR75, and I'm an architect of disruption. So I'm thankful for everybody here to talk with us today and engage, and hopefully we just give some knowledge. Like, we're not doctors, we are just parents and humans with lived experience.
Amen, sister. Amen.
And I'm not called Michelle. I'm Paulette. Paulette Hallam. I'm an author of children's books to help them learn about themselves. So the books really are the two characters, Jack and Walter, and Jack is a little boy who's confused and gets himself into all kinds of mental scrapes. He, beats himself up about things. And then Walter is the sort of conscious thinking, the one that tries to turn it around and bring him back to, well, how about we try this? Or how about we try that? Breathe. Let's have a think about things. And I think that that's very relevant to today, actually, because the books are born out of my son and out of my nephew. And everything in them has come from learned experience. Now, yes, I'm a trained therapist, but that was because I had a son with issues of autism that the schools weren't helping me with. So I had to go away and learn. So my training and my therapy and my counseling qualifications came about as a result of Ben's diagnosis. So this couldn't be closer to my heart, because you girls are going to talk to us about your learned experience, and people need to understand the only way is for you to stand up for them, because who else will? Thank you.
Amen, Aunt Paula. Amen. Thank you. Let's hear from you, Annie the Wizard.
They can't really see me. I'm applicating. They can't see me. Dr. Lisa, glad you're here. At least you're here early, right?
Excuse me, what did you say you were doing?
Hiding.
Oh,
no, you said you were doing something.
No,
it ended in cating. It ended in cating, and that's all I heard.
No, I said I'm hiding.
I just want to say real quick, I got to go log into a therapy session. I'm going to be right back, and go to my LinkedIn page. Lisa is in a run to be on a cover of a magazine, so we need to go vote for her.
Yeah, I've voted already, by the way. So if you haven't voted yet, then I'll send those.
Me too.
You voted as well? Okay.
I voted.
So Leonardo, so I'm in your shoes, Paulette. My son is also autistic, so thank you for joining us, my friend. Of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts, Leonardo. If you want to join the studio and share, just put in the comment here. Just say you want the link, StreamYard link, anything like that. I will get. So we have got Dr. Lisa's show next after this, right? Paulette and I have, which is at 10 o'clock my time. Was that 3 hours? Not 2 hours? So we do have to leave earlier than we did last time, Paulette.
Not a problem. I think that we're going to be able to do this really easy, because obviously when our children don't fit the mold, we've got to find expectations. And I want to know what kind of expectations, since you two have already been through it, you and Annie, Paulette, what expectations did you see for your kids that then you had to work on yourselves to get them? We've heard from Paulette saying how she had to advocate to get the IEP for her son, and it went to college. Now that's amazing. And I actually told Nevada all about that, and they were like, this is perfect. But what else, when your child didn't fit the mold, as in with parents, how did you both react? Because here, our parents aren't fitting the mold for their kids to get help, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, parents, actually, I'm going to say something that's going to sound awful, but I don't actually care anymore. Um, I tell it how it is. I speak the truth. I've got nothing to hide.
And that's why we love you.
Some of the hardest lessons I had to learn were from other parents. Parents who were cruel, parents who were mean, parents who didn't invite Ben to things because of he might be disruptive, he might do this, he might do that. He didn't before you found out about this word. So what makes you suddenly think is going to just overnight change behavior? The problem that you have, and the spectrum is so wide and so vast, so that everybody hears a word and goes to the farthest end of the spectrum and assumes that that's what you're being dealt with. And actually, we don't know until maybe they're in their early teens, late 9, 10, 11, really behaviorally how they're going to cope with different circumstances. We can only guess how they'll cope. So I would say to Ben, I would give him an example of what might happen, or this could happen, or in the situation of you're the last one standing and you haven't been picked for a team, see that as you're the secret weapon. Whoever gets you, right, has got like Superman. And he'd be like, yeah. And he would like that. He would take that. Now, whether or not, in fact, in Dodgeball, he became Superman. And that was quite funny. But, you know, in the early days, when you're the last one standing, when Jack was the kid that got on the bus second on a cold coach and there wasn't a spare seat, you know, these are the things that children take inside, internalize, and beat themselves up about being different. And when I've met children now who I thought would never be able to cope with college, be able to cope with this, be able to cope with that, and I find out that everybody who was struggling in a particular way, and I've been able to show them that they can be themselves. I think that showing a child that there is a place for them, showing them that there is a place at the table for them, showing them there's a place, that there's a you know, Ben was told, and I'm not going to keep going on, but Ben was told not to come to school. I don't know if I've told this story before, so forgive me if I have, but Ben was told not to come to school because on the Saturday, because one of the kids was supposed to be playing from the first team in football. He was representing the class, and he was suddenly had to go to Ireland to go to a funeral. That meant that Ben was the only other boy in the class. He automatically got put in the football team. Now, Ben was told by that boy, if you come to school on Saturday and you play for our team, then we will lose. So you are sick. You make sure you're sick on Saturday because you don't come to school. So Ben said to me, I'm going to be sick tomorrow. I mean, you can't get a more honest child than Ben, right? I'm going to be sick tomorrow. How do you know you're going to be sick? Well, I've got to be sick. Why have you got to be sick? Because I can't go to school. Okay, right. Tell me what's going on. So I was very fortunate that I have this complete honest child who would tell me. And then I was like, really? And I just had a back operation. I was on 2 crutches. And I said to Charles, right, we're going to football tomorrow. Ben's playing for the school, for his class. And Ben was like, oh, I'm not going. And I was like, yeah, you are. And you're going to walk on that pitch as proud as punch because you've been chosen. And you're going to go out there and you're going to show them. And do you know what? He set up the goal that won the game, that won the tournament. And they were all cheering Hallam and clapping and all the rest of it. And Ben was just like, "Did you see that, Mum? Did you see that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I saw it." And those boys calling his name was like winning the FA Cup to him. And when that kid came back to school on the Tuesday, he was off on the Monday, on the Tuesday came back to school, he'd already heard from his mates that Ben had set the goal up that won the tournament, right? He
Yeah.
never said a word. He never said a word to Ben.
That's
But
beautiful.
what that kid didn't know was that I was on the phone to that kid's father saying, "What kind of child have you brought up? That he has the audacity to tell another child they'd rather be a man down and have no sub than come to school. What kind of child are you bringing up? Who are you bringing into this world?" And the dad said to me, "I will deal with it." Now, that's not always the case. That I didn't always get that response. But that is an example of autism at its absolute or most honest. I've been told not to come to school because I'm not good enough, because they don't want me to play in the team, so I won't go. And you having to build them up to say, "Get your backside in that football kit, we're going." But Mum, you're on 2 crutches. I don't care. I'll stand by the sideline and I will scream and shout for you, as I did. And the point I'm making is when this whole story comes to light and you realize, what kind of adults are those people going to be if they're filled with such hate and such disdain and such complete and utter disregard for other human life and the way they treat people? What kind of adults do they become? And that's the next answer, That's the question, Michelle. These children that don't fit into the mold end up being adults that don't fit into the mold. And we have to work on that as well.
Yes, we do. Because when they don't fit into the mold at school, they don't even have. This is how I've always seen it. And I know this is kind of different, but it's honestly true. A lot of kids in America, when we graduate, if we have no tools or degrees, we'll join the military. Most of those kids that join the military with no tools automatically are either discharged dishonorably or honorably. Either way, they only make it a couple of years. And so those kids are coming out. Well, now they're young humans, and they're coming out still with no more tools. They're still 2 years behind now. And so then what we're having is these older, younger youths now that can't even make it in the military because they had no tools to go into the military. Now they're coming out of the military with no tools. So at that point, they've got to make money. And it seems to me they pick selling drugs to make a quick buck. They pick scamming people to make a quick buck. They pick stealing. And actually they are catching so many of them stealing on camera to make a quick buck because they either return it or they sell it on one of social media sites. So I guess what I'm getting at is we have all of these young adult humans that have no tools, even though they keep trying to get tools, and we just keep putting them back out there. And now they're either in mental health court or they're in drug court, and they're still not getting any tools in those court systems either. So after they're done of 3 years of drug court or mental health court, they don't have any education. They don't have any tools that they can use. And then they're put back out there. And at what point they usually go into our prison systems. And to me, it's just a horrible, vicious cycle. And I'm seeing it every single day that we're not giving them tools. And we are responsible to be giving our own youth tools and not just letting them graduate and then kicking them out of the house. And they're like, well, I have nothing else. I'm going to go join the military, because the military is a great thing. It's a great organization to join, because you get to go to college and everything for free if you stay in it. All right. And so then when you're discharged before your first 3 or 5 years are up, you're put back out, I would say, back out in society, and your background shows that you didn't get good grades, you couldn't make it in the military, and now you're here asking this person for a job, and they're going to look straight at them and say, you're a dime a dozen. Why would I waste my time on you when I can hire someone else over here that doesn't have the same background or the record as you do? And so those people are really falling through the cracks. I wanted to join the military immensely. I really did. And they told me I couldn't because of my being in special education. They didn't say why. They just said because I had been in special education growing up. And so at that point, I had to go find my own tools, which obviously I did fine. I am one of those lucky ones that does go searching for the right tools, because I know the difference between right and wrong. And I'm like your son. We're brutally honest. We will tell on ourselves. I stole the candy bar when they were 25 cents once, and I even took it back into the butcher, and he was so confused. He even gave me a hot dog. And I was just like, no, I should go to jail. I'm bad. But that's just how us unique individuals are. And I just want to break the chain, Paulette, so bad, of how do we teach tools now to people that feel like they've been given up on, and now they don't want anyone's help. How we gave up on them when they were youth. How do we give up on them when they're young adults? Because nobody, I feel, is grown up until they're 25.
See, there's an argument with me about, and I don't want to know because I'm really scared to find out the answer. But I would imagine there will be a large percentage of youth that is in jail that has either come from some kind of neurodivergence or some kind of background where they had learning difficulties and then ended up into prisons. There's also evidence to prove, and Annie will back me up on this, that a large proportion of the kids that are in care end up going into prison. So, we have to be reminded that if we don't address these issues, there's only one place they end up, and that is jail. And, I'm heartbroken by the facts, but the facts are the facts. They stand. And I get incredibly emotional at the number of people that from the care sector are in jail. And I get incredibly upset by the number that have got some sort of learning difficulty or neurodivergence. So they have been misunderstood all of their life, right up to the point they even end up going to jail. Michelle's back. I'm going to shut up. The expert is here.
I'm not an expert. Oh my God. I'm waiting on a link to come, so I'll go off again in a minute. But I really just wanted to jump in, listening to you guys here in the background. So the first thing that I do want to say for anybody that's listening that finds themselves in this position where, they have this child that just isn't fitting into molds, I need to be really clear in telling the world that we are not supposed to be putting our children into molds. Okay. Like, we are trying to make our children adapt and conform to molds that were created in systems that no longer exist in the families and the homes where they're being implemented. One of the major problems that I have personally been, navigating in this is I needed to find a way to be okay and comfortable and accepting of my truth. Because every organization I was going to, every level of the government I was going to, every branch of the educational department locally, everywhere I was turning, I was being told why we didn't qualify, what we didn't do to fit the mold, what wasn't right for this. So nobody at any point in time came to me and said, what was right about my kid?
Yes.
Period. So all my emails always was starting out with, let me tell you about my brilliantly amazing, beautiful daughter. Because what you guys are trying to categorize her and where you guys are trying to put her, that's not who she is. And it's not our fault. Your systems and your educational plan and your building and your teachers and nobody understands her. I don't care. And the one thing that I learned the most, it's ingrained in our minds through society and cards and movies and actions that, this is what a family's supposed to be. This is how it goes with school. This is XYZ. This is what it's going to be. Well, fuck you and fuck your systems. Because all that does is make my child suicidal. All that does is make me wonder, how the fuck do I stay alive when my child is telling me that she doesn't want to live? It's not a parent problem. It's not my problem when I'm going to schools and I'm telling them there's problems. When I'm going to mental health people and I'm telling them that there are problems. When I go to the hospital and I say, my kid is suicidal and I need help. I don't know what to do. I have no support. And they go, oh, the policy says she has to be 12. What? I have to go through this for a year alone? I go to my mayor. I beg my mayor just to come and look at where we live. He promises he will, but then the moment he gets elected and sworn in, I get blocked from their servers. They don't respond to emails. Come on now. I've gone to everything they teach you in school. I've done it. I've done it legally. I have done it to the best of my ability. I've done it. So at what point? So now you file a lawsuit against me and you say I'm practicing law without a license. But the truth is, I was so desperate to give my daughter what she deserves. I had to learn a legal process. And I threatened you. You were threatened because I used my voice. And that is the problem. So what do when our children are fitting molds? We say, fuck the system. And we start making systems that fit our children.
I love you. Thank you, Michelle. You know what, and everybody, folks, you know what, Michelle has really had it rough. She really has, and you can't be upset with her for saying what she does when for the last 10 years, the system hasn't helped us parents. I see it coming around now. I see counties being audited and getting in trouble, and it's just like, yeah, bet you're finding money now. But unfortunately, we've got all these children that for 10 years, everyone's been fighting and saying this and saying that. But we've all wanted the same thing, our children to get educations. And I do believe we have finally been heard and something's being done about that. I know in Nevada, we had so many organizations saying that they would help me, but when I would go to them, they're actually shut down, but they're still receiving money from COVID. And so I couldn't get my daughter any help. And I'm just like, well, wait a minute here. How come you're getting COVID money and you're not keeping your doors open? And the only people in Nevada that did keep their doors open and went to Zoom was Nevada PEP. And that was Parents Empowering Parents. And they were the first one to do it. And it was during COVID. But honestly, that's why they did it, is because they found out all these other organizations that are in Google, and you Google them here in Nevada, come to find out they're still collecting money, but those organizations aren't working anymore. And it devastated me because I was in the same situation as Michelle Ramos. My daughter was on her way to committing suicide, and luckily she came in and told me. You know, and I'm proud of her for telling me, because it was able to save her. But at the same time, when I wrote our state attorney about it, he said, "Well, I'll send it to the right department." And it was like, well, what right department's going to tell me what organization is really still going during this COVID and lockdown? He didn't have an answer for me. My attorney general of Nevada had no answer for me. All he said was, "I'll send it to another department." And I actually have my certified letter from him. "We hope this helps you." That didn't help me at all, because no one called me, and still no one's ever called me. And I do believe that's why he's being replaced now, but not because of me, but because so many of us were let down here in Nevada with disabled youth when we are calling our own attorney generals and everything, and they're like, "Well, you know what? I'll file that with the right department." Well, if you tell me what the right department is, I'll do that for you. And no one could tell me what the right department was. And that's when I went to Nevada PEP meeting that night, and I said, "You know what, families, I'm going to go out there and venture off into the world in litigant, and I'm going to talk to every neuroscientist all over the world and see what they've got for us, because our attorney general don't got squat." And we were all just kind of baffled. Now things are changing around. I do see a beautiful change, at least in Nevada. I don't know about Ohio or other states. I know Nevada PEP, and then our university built NAN, after school network, for our youth, and Nevada PEP has branched in with them. And so now only organizations that are actually open and working are allowed, and they have to connect with NAN. So that way they are legal in Nevada, and we finally know what the heck's going on here as parents, because us parents, there was nothing in our rural disability fund.
Michelle, when you've told me in the past, you've said to me, when they went to the fund, the pot that was there, supposedly for the disabled, if you wish to call that the term, I don't know what the pot was called, but the pot was empty, right? Somebody had raided it.
It was
right?
minus 81 cents. Yeah. It was the
Right.
World Disability.
Now, I will tell you, in the UK, Michelle, right this moment in time, this is a battle in every single town, county around the country, the whole of the UK, because there isn't sufficient funds put aside for what they call SEND, which is the UK's terminology for I think it's special ed and neurodivergence. But the point is this: that fund should be there, and it's not. And it's and the fund that is there is so minuscule compared to the problem that it's like a drop of water in an ocean. It's like insufficient by a million times, and they will always tell you we don't have the money, and the answer is find it. Go
we
find them.
audited them.
We're paying.
The issue's not money.
Go find it.
The issue's not money. And,
No,
and there is literal, factual, statistical evidence to back this. That the issue is not money. The issue is that we are. Okay, so I'm trying to think of a way to help people understand. Okay, so recently I had to one of my clients. I had to help them through. So with the advocacy work I do, they're obviously educational, mental health, everything across the board. So there was a teacher going to a school board meeting that was an emergency meeting and the issue needing to be addressed, which, created this meeting was that a teacher within that district was arrested for some type of a sexual conduct with a student. Immediately, this growing up for myself, this would have been something that came on the news that would have just stopped the world. But today, we are so numb from the exposure to such disgusting things that it's second nature. But what I was able to do for her was to help her. I should have said her. I apologize. What I was able to do for this person was to help them create an agenda that was going to allow them to have an unbiased, non-judgmental take, to hold order for teachers, for board administrators, for city citizens, for parents. Everybody's voices needed to be heard in that meeting. That's indisputable. But also, a teacher is being accused of an allegation that could ruin their life, but it's an allegation that usually comes with a verdict before a trial.
Yeah.
By engaging in this session with my client, I was able to allow them to just stop for a moment and to step back, because the questions aren't only of the teacher. The questions are of the student, of the staff and the administration in the school directly. The questions need to be asked of the school board. The questions need to be asked of the parents. There's so many areas that you need to be able to ask and receive the facts without allowing it to coerce how you're going to go forward. And one thing out of that entire situation was, and reading public news articles to educate myself on what this person was dealing with, I needed to make her aware of something. And that is, my daughter had two friends that were putting her in the middle of a situation, making her uncomfortable because her friends became an item.
Oh.
In a romantic relationship. They're 12.
Right.
So let's analyze this. When I was 12 years old, we had streetlights telling us it was time to come home. We sat in devil strips with Barbie dolls and coloring books. We played curveball. Like, we were kids.
Yep.
So, where I am not justifying the teacher's actions in any way, what I am saying is that a 13-year-old child in today's society acts as a grown adult compared to what a 13-year-old child did 30 years ago. That's number one.
Exactly.
Number two, if the parents are so quick to report a teacher for said allegation, and what I read in public information of the fact that this said incident transpired over multiple years, where is the parents' liability for not monitoring their child's digital footprints to even know what was transpiring behind the scenes? How much pressure was put on this adult by this minor child acting grown that they gave in to a temptation years later, found out, oh my God, this isn't okay, made a mistake. But now this teacher, for the rest of their life, will walk around being labeled and identified as a child predator. And that's not the reality of the situation. The truth is, we are trying to build systems and hold people accountable to models that we no longer live in. We don't have two-parent homes. We aren't having dinner at the dinner table as a family, uninterrupted. This isn't society. And this is, and our children's mentalities and behaviors, and they're modeling what they see at home. Every human is born to love. Think about the first time you see a baby smile in the hours after it came out of your womb. That wasn't taught. We teach hate. We teach categories. We teach the stuff that makes us so segregated. If we can teach those things, we can surely reteach people how to love again and how to be kind humans.
Exactly. It's going to take a while, but I know both sides want it, and you're absolutely correct, Michelle. Everything you just is said. Unfortunately, Nevada has a lot of pedophiles. I do believe we are the pedophile capital of the world. I mean, that's not an unknown thing. And
this isn't to say everybody's a bad person. This isn't to say that Akron is horrible. It's to say that we are living in a system that's broken, and that the severity of the bad will forever outweigh every piece of amazingness anybody's doing, because nobody is going and fixing the root issues. They're just putting Band-Aids on bullet holes.
And we need to stop that. We need to update this system.
Can I just say, I had a conversation, and this is going to sound very uncool of me because I'm old, but that's fine. I was talking to my cleaning lady, and I'd got a load of nail polish on the side. And I said, do you think that the children would want this for the summer holidays? And she said, well, no, they wear these false stick-on nails now. So I said, oh, okay. She said, they wear them all the time. I said, sorry? Yeah, for school. They wear them for school. False nails, okay? So she said, if you saw Amy go to school, she's got false eyelashes on. I'm like, I'm sorry. And she said, yeah, she's 12. 12 years old, false eyelashes and fake fake nails and full makeup, full face of makeup. And I said to her, now Amy is diagnosed. She has she's ND, and her spectrum, I have no knowledge of knowing the full details, but she is on the spectrum. Now, what scares me about that, what conversation you just had, she craves attention. She craves it. She doesn't get the right attention at home because there isn't the right relationship. She spends so many days with one parent, She spends, and when she's with the dad, she doesn't swear. She's able to control her temper. She doesn't F and C and all, I mean, the really bad words. She doesn't use any of that language, and she's not allowed her phone. That's his rules. At home, she calls her grandmother, my cleaner, an effing C, right?
Yeah. Wow.
She is wearing all this makeup, the eyes, the nails. She is dressed in a certain kind of way. And I just said something, and afterwards I said, I think I went too far. But I actually said the term jailbait used to be used when we were kids, right? If we even were to put lipstick on, it was like, oh gosh, you're jailbait because you make yourself look older. And you were 16, 17 then, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about 12. These were babies. We were babies. I'm not being funny about everyone else, but I certainly was very much a child. I was able to play house because I looked after my brothers. I did the washing, the ironing, the cooking because my mum was in bed because she had had a stroke. But the point was, we were in a position where I could take the role on of looking after people. I wasn't sexualized at that point. I had no idea whatsoever. And here we are, and I'm now 60. So we're going forward. Let's say we're going forward 45 years, 47 years, 48 years, whatever it is. And look what's happened. And I can remember saying something like, she doesn't understand her own emotions, right? She doesn't, no question. She's already so unhappy. She's like a nomad, 2 nights at Nan's, 2 nights at home, 2 nights at her dad's, 1 at her auntie's, right? So she's a nomad. She has no solid foundation in her life. Where's this going to lead? The first person who shows her any kind of one-on-one attention, I'm afraid to say she will be off, because when you are deprived of something, you crave it, and you crave it more. And when you have neurodivergence, you cannot see what is right from wrong, because you get into the headspace of that's what I want, that's what I need, that's where I'm going, that's my direction. And I just want your thoughts on this, because I said far too much and I wondered if I'd lost my cleaner over it. But
no, you did. No,
thankfully I didn't.
you're right. You're right. Because so for myself and with Dore's statistics, and one of the things that we strongly need to do is that issues we're facing with ourselves, with our families, with our homes, with our children, with our schools, everything needs to be discussed, addressed, and plans implemented at a multifaceted, multi-sector level. We need to address home life instability. We need to address mental health. We need to address medical. We need to address children's services and incarceration, and we need to access. So what it is that you get a lot of these nationally recognized, successful nonprofit organizations, and they're getting millions in funding. But if you are able to go through all public records and you're able to start reading available information, and then you take their mission statement and then you align it with what is actually being given to the communities they exist, there is a massive misalignment.
There is
And this is what is contributing. Like there's everybody wants to find one person or one organization or one level of government to blame. We need to blame every human in the world collectively as a whole, accept accountability, accept the fact that until we can look at a mirror and say, I did my best, I'm doing this, and you start with yourself, you're not going to do anything to change the world. How are you going to change the world and then go home and still do all the horrible things that keep the world where it's at?
I think that's where we need to start now. Let me welcome Philip. Philip, thanks for joining us. Philip Ailes, I'm glad you're here. Michael, great comments. I'll come back to that in a second. Look, for Michelle, I think I'm almost going to take it back. And I think this is a wider issue for the world, really, in that, as people, we have expectations.
Yes.
We know what we want people to be and to be like. We know the sort of people that do A, so people that do B. So that's sort of people that can't do A or B. So let's write them off. It's mental shortcuts, right? Quick fixes is what Michael calls it. I'll come to your comments soon, Michael, right? Look, I'm speaking from the position of having 3 kids. All very different. All very different.
Oh, wow.
As a parent, we know, and I'm saying we have our own expectations of our kids, right?
Yes.
We expect them to be a certain way, to behave a certain way. Maybe even look a certain way.
Yes.
And we are most amazed when they don't none of them fit the mold half the time. If you're lucky, you might get one that fits the mold. You know, and as parents, we learn to deal with this. Now we have to learn to deal with it because, and when I say deal with it, we have to accept our reality and accept the kid we have, and treat each kid as the special person they are. And I've never mentioned neurodivergence yet. I'm saying now, once we go into society, we have a way that we expect kids to be. You know, let's take schools as an example. We expect kids to sit down, face forward, pen in the hand, paper in front of them. When we speak, they make notes. They write stuff that we say, whatever that is. Well, I never do that at school, but as adults we do, right? So we expect kids to sit down, be obedient, be quiet, be attentive, and nod their head at the teacher. When teachers speak, they're like, yeah, right? That's what we expect at school. I'm saying, Paulette mentioned her son doing sports. We expect boys to be good at football in UK. The US, I'm sure, it's basketball and American football. We don't get that, right? I'm saying that. So we carry these expectations around. And I think kids also, by their behavior, now those who don't sit down quietly, those who are not polite and smiley and socially skilled, I'll call it that. I know what, I'm sure you know what I mean. Those who haven't got social skills, they're not, polite, they're not attentive, they're not eye contact people. I could go on saying, no, those kids will tend to just write off. They will never get to quality. Ben will never be anything because he has autism. How's he ever going to be anything? It must be weird, right? It must be strange. It's going to behave badly. Paul, we've been through this every room we've done on this topic, right? And so people judge everyone. And my problem with today's topic is my reality is that once people start writing off kids, they're doomed.
They are.
And we do this very early, because kid doesn't fit into the mold, whatever the mold is. And and the mode that we've tried to fit them into is not the same for everyone, and it's not only a few. It's a hell of a lot of modes that we're trying to fit them into, and most kids don't fit into the mode. Now, Michelle B asked a question earlier, which I'll pass the mic to you, Michelle. Michelle B asked a question earlier, which I thought was very important. She said, "Do we try to make our kids fit into the mode? Or do we have to adapt the mode to the kid? Square peg, round hole concept, right? That's a point today, I think, for me anyway, right? That's a point for me. I don't know what the answer is.
So for me, it's we make new molds. Period. There's no this mold or that mold. It's this mold we know don't work. This mold we know don't work. It's time to make a new mold. My issue has been repeated failures at levels with professional titles that created the trauma. These are the professional titles that are elected, appointed, accolades from prestige university. These are people with letters after their name that have never breathed, walked, or lived one moment in the systems they want to fix. And my theory through my almost 13 years of becoming a mother, the most critical turning point for me was the acceptance that I am not my child's teacher and I'm not teaching her a damn thing. She is my teacher. She is showing me what it means to live. And we need to start looking at our children like that, because the truth is those children are going to be the ones needing to wipe our asses and make a world operate better than what it is today.
And it's the truth. And it's sad, but it's the truth. And that kills me that I failed as a mother. And Michelle, you are so right with everything. And that's why we're here breaking these chains.
I I wouldn't say you failed as a mother.
You did not fail as a mom. We do what we do with what we know until we know better.
Exactly. That's why I think it's part of the problem. We're trying to fit into modes ourselves.
And this is
when we're not fitting into the mode, society says, "Oh, well, no, you can't do that." Look, let Philip. Well said, my friend. That's to you, Michelle. Say it's that. I said, no, and you should. Now you have. That's good on you. That's what this show is for, right? So she gives you purpose, says Philip. I agree. Michael, I'm with you. Michael says people look for quick fixes because the system doesn't support ND of any kind. And it's becoming an extremely large issue, so a problem for the world. It really is.
And one of the most impactful fixes we could implement today, this moment. Listen to understand, not to reply.
I agree 100%.
Listen to listen, not listen to answer, folks. Because you know what? They've already got the answer. They need you to listen, not listen to answer. Because believe me, if you had the answer, you wouldn't be standing right there talking to them, and their conversation wouldn't be happening.
So it's true. Look, many kids will break the mold. Ben being a perfect example. And now again, any spectrum you want to choose, I'm saying we know autistic people that are geniuses. We know people now. We know Stephen Hawkins lived. I'm saying, right. So you can't fit people with disabilities into a mold in that sense, right? Many of them will shatter the mold and exceed anything that we might expect of them. Dr. Melissa Houston, glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much.
Now, I do want to say something to that, Annie. There isn't really any middle in between for us autistic youth and myself.
There's neurodivergence, like that. Even before the show, we were just explaining that to you.
Yeah.
Like the world operates in this way of everything that they're taught and what they learn and experience and see. And when you're neurodivergent, try taking all that noise of the outside world telling you what you're supposed to be doing or how to do it or why. And in your mind, it's a shit show. It's so much anxiety. It's so much angst because in your mind, you are not capable of conforming to that manner.
Yeah, because here, I don't know about there, but pretty much here in America, our neurodivergents are either very well educated and smart, or they're drug dealers and they're going to shoot you up.
You either have access to resources and support that is impactful and positive, or you have access to what is in the community because the elected officials don't dare step foot there to see the reality. They just want to go by what's written in reports.
Yeah, neurodivergent children do not see how other people see. So when they get older and they can't find help, they will latch onto anything. You've got your gangs, you've got this, and they will connect with those automatically because they can't do the middle like everybody else can.
And when you're growing up in disenfranchised neighborhoods with the lack of the appropriate resources, it's not just that child. It's that whole street, all those houses. When you live in poverty, those are the truly resilient humans. Because you wake up every day and you do life basic survival things to survive, to go to bed, to wake up, to do it again the next day. This is your reality. So things that I'm fighting for with Don't Raise Statistics, the things that I know are possible are because I had to be so uncomfortable inside myself and say mentally that enough is enough. And I had to go start seeking in my mind, I'm saying there's no way this is healthy. There's no way this is okay. And then to go into somebody's home where it is a quote unquote healthy family, I'm sitting here like, I'm the one out of place. I'm the one uncomfortable because they're telling me this is what a family should be. They're telling me this is how it should be. But my friends, all our homes, like, we're used to the coffee mugs flying at our heads. We're used to being screamed at and lied to and coming home to roaches or no electricity. That's what we know. And when you see it in your friends' homes, how are you supposed to know that's not okay? When you have homeschooling teachers coming in to give you your education, and then they know what they're seeing is not safe, not okay, but then they're so uncomfortable that they just do their job and they leave and they don't report it. Or when you know you see a child in a home that's not safe and you do report it, but the children's services department is so overworked and underfunded, and nobody shows up to that child that does need them. We are in a vicious cycle that is not left, right, top, bottom. It's either you're poor and this is your reality, you're rich, this is your reality, and there is no in between. Money is not the issue.
When it comes to resources, money is the issue. As Philip says, it depends on funding. I think one of you mentioned, someone mentioned
funding.
The funding for Nevada, yes.
As Philip says,
right.
I think there's a point. Let me do Philip quick, and then I'll come to you. Paulette. Now, Philip says you have to show up for life. Now, I think this raises a question for me, which I'm hoping that you might have a view on, my friends. See, Michelle B keeps talking about, not keeps, she mentioned the kids who have two choices as adults: either become, either fit into the mold somehow, if at all possible, or become drug dealers. I'm saying, as parents, as carers, surely we have a duty to, we have to somehow keep our kids off the danger list. That's what I can say. When I pull it about the kids.
You can't have uneducated parents keeping their children off of those lists if they don't even know that they are that list exists.
But not the list of a 12-year-old wearing makeup and going to school in micro skirts. That's a problem. The parent can tackle that. They have to tackle that.
But does the parent see this as a problem? This is the reality we live in. The exposure, what media does.
They have to see it as a problem, Michelle. They have to see it as a problem, because it is a problem it will be a problem for the kid now and in the future. They get groomed, as we talked about, right? So
right.
I think is nowhere the line is, Michelle, between freedom and between adapting to your kid and saying and holding a kid and say, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. That just is not going to work.
Can I just say, Annie, before
please,
Charles comes back if Charles comes back in, I'll have to stop. But my husband is the most sarcastic. Annie has met him. He has a wicked, vicious sense of humor. Hilarious, but it cuts straight to the core, right? He had a girl in front of him, 13 years old. She looked like a supermodel, was the word he used, right? She was fully developed. She was wearing a shirt with a tie. A tie was on, but she was wearing it like a cravat with a shirt undone, right? She'd got her skirt rolled up, so it was like way above the knee, way above. She had more eye makeup on than I could wear, that I could ever wear, right? And not just done well, but looked like a supermodel, right? Her eyebrows were like sticking up bits and flat bits and round bits, and it was all glued on, sort of thing. She said to Charles, "Can I have extra maths lessons?" So Charles said, "No." So she said, "Why not?" He said, 3 times last week you were asked to attend for extra maths. You didn't come. And 3 times I sat here with 2 other students hoping you were going to walk through the door. You didn't come. If you spent as much time on your maths homework as you do on your eyebrows or your eyelashes or your eye makeup or your fingernails or your face makeup, we wouldn't even need to be in special measures because you are bright. You are intelligent. You have it, but you choose to not have it because you want to be with your friends who are in special measures. Now, I'm asking you, right? He said this to her. I'm asking you to think about what I've said. Okay? And he left it at that. He got called in. He had to go and see one of the heads because the mother had complained that he had accused the girl of wearing too much makeup and that she was not allowed to attend the special maths lessons. And the head said to him, "What's the answer?" And he said, "Well," and he told exactly as I just did. And the head went, "Fair enough, I'll write back." Okay. But my husband also got accused of grooming because we used to keep coats under his desk that he used to give away every single day to kids that came into school without a coat, with blue lips and freezing. And he'd say to them, "Look, I found a few and I bought these back from the lost property. If it fits you, try it on." And we would go around the charity shops buying them.
Yep.
And he was accused of grooming. So you can't win, okay? You as a teacher trying to tell a girl, spend the time on maths, right? And you'll go far. You'll be able to do it. You've got the ability. Motivate her. Tell her, teach her, show her. And what happens? Her parent wants to fight. You have other teachers saying to my husband, be careful, be smart. You get caught giving those coats out, they'll accuse you of grooming. So Charles said, "Don't be stupid, it's a coat." True enough. Got a phone call. Could he come down to see the headmaster? Down he went, and the headmaster said, "Are you giving coats out to kids?" He said, "Kids that don't have the money for coats and are freezing cold." "Yes, I am. Me and my wife go around the charity shops to buy them all up. Only nice ones, decent ones, quality ones. Check the zips, did it all, you know? Well, you can't do it anymore." So Charles said, "You'd rather the kids were cold." He said, "It's not about that. It's not about that." So Charles said, "Well, have a room where we can just throw all the coats in there and the kids can help themselves to the coats, right? Doesn't have to be, we'll buy them, chuck them in a room." "Oh, no, we can't be seen to be doing that." So I think, and I'm not defending teachers here, left, right, and centre. I think majority of the teachers go into the profession with a view that they're going to try and do the best job in the best possible way and meet the kids where they're at. The problem you have is when there is such a mismatch between the parent and the teacher, the home education and the teacher. Why is the homework never done? Because the kid's never told to do it. Well, you're going to have an issue there. Whether it's a neurodivergence thing or not, you're going to have an issue. With neurodivergence, you're going to have a different kind of issue. Because if the parent isn't putting in the effort and helping the child to focus, then when the kid gets into trouble, as Ben has done for missing the project time or not understanding something, he is so mortified. He would beat himself up for days because that's how much it means to them, right? And there are other kids who couldn't give a toss. And that's the truth.
It is very true.
And we have to work out.
I want to add to what you're saying. It is that you say, what I heard, one of the things I heard you say was that, when the child gets home, that you don't have the parent doing the enforcement. So, and with Dore's statistics, one area that we know needs an extreme amount of attention is We have single parent homes with parents working 2 and 3 jobs just to ensure that child has a home to come home to.
Yes.
So what can we do as a community to go to these single parent households? Because it's not just moms, there's dads that are single dads. But what are the resources that are tangible that either allow them to not need to work so many jobs to make sure their child has a home? Or how do we step in to be the community support? Because it takes a village.
It does. It really does.
And that's the key there, Michelle. If you had one parent say, I don't work late on Tuesdays, they can all come to my house, and my house will be homework house on Tuesdays. And another one says, I do this, and they can come on Wednesdays to me. And it's not about, I didn't mean it to sound like
No,
the
I
kids.
knew. I was just trying to give our audience
It's even more
another
than that.
angle.
Yeah, but it's even more than that. And this is something, again, I'm speaking way out of turn here because I'm telling you things that I shouldn't. But he would say to me that parents sometimes look at him and go, I have no frigging clue what this is.
Yep.
I don't think I was ever shown this in school. I don't think I was ever taught this in school. Right?
Yes.
And he told a story about a kid saying to him, "Sir, how long have I got left in the test?" And my husband being sarcastic, and he had bants. They called it BANTZ, bants, with the children, so that made him not ferocious, strong, determined, but banter. So he got the best out of them, and he pointed to the clock and he went, "Duh." Like that. In other words, don't ask me how much time we've got. There's a clock on the wall. And this kid turned around and said, "Sir, I don't do them ones. I can only do digital."
Mm-hmm.
So at that second, he said, "Hands up, everyone in the room who can't tell the time." Half the class. Half the
I
class
don't
had
know
never
how
been
it is over
shown.
there. Here in the States, there's a period they stopped teaching cursive handwriting. We have a whole generation of children that don't even know how to do a signature.
Yeah, it's true.
That must be a problem. You know, hold on.
How is that not a problem?
Wow. So now, someone will say to you, "Do I need to write to do well at school?" Obviously not. Obviously you do, but you don't. I'm saying that this is a conversation. I think it's I go back to my point about working at which mode are we trying to fit kids into, which modes actually matter. When you go for a job, right? There's an essential qualities list, right? And then there's a desirable, and then there almost there's nice to haves, the bonus things that you might bring to the job, right? I'm saying I don't think we know what the important things that kids need to be able to do. That criteria doesn't exist because it's different for everyone, different in different places, right? Look, Philip says you survived, Michelle, which nice. She's surviving more than she's thriving. Her daughter's thriving too, so that's a good thing, Philip. And welcome, Sandra. Glad you're here.
I can say this: a lot of our parents aren't educated here in Nevada. Honestly, that's a huge problem with a lot of our youth here in Nevada, because a lot of the parents aren't educated.
We need to reiterate. I gotta say this. Okay, we gotta stop saying parents aren't educated. Okay, what I would like to say is they're not educated with the knowledge that allows them to be successful and create real human impact in the world. We are educated with the information that they want to supply us with that allows them to continue operating their systems and organizations in a manner that has allowed the corruption and fraudulent activities to continue to happen. I am an educated person based on self-education. What the school system taught me did not do a damn thing to help me be where I am today.
I love you, Michelle. I'm just saying, though, when a parent here in Nevada has to try to help with history or math, they can't do that.
Right.
Because none of them went to school. It's very easy here in Nevada to drop out of school and no one cares because you can go work in the fields and make money. And honestly, that's what a lot of rural kids do because you can go to the mines. You don't have to have no diploma to go work at the mines. And so then these parents have kids and they've only have they never finished high school. They might have gone to their freshman year, but that's about it. And so how are they supposed to teach their children that are coming home with this schoolwork? They know how to do, they've learned all their life tools to work at a mine. They're making awesome money when you work at a mine, you really do. I'm not gonna lie.
No,
But when it comes to their kids coming home, they get frazzled because they're like, I can't help you. But here's the big thing. When the kids go and tell the school, I didn't do my homework because of my parents, that's when the authorities will step in and say, what are your parents doing wrong? And they're doing nothing wrong. They just haven't gone even through high school. They don't even have a GED. But you know what? They can pick at rocks in that mine and make $45 an hour. So who cares? But then here's a child going, well, I hope I can make $45 an hour in that mine after I get done with 8th grade. Because you know what? Right now I'm just smoking dope and I'm going to school to hang out with my friends.
We also need to start realizing, when are we going to start respecting the janitor the same way that we're respecting the CEOs? Some people are not capable or meant to go to school. In the development and the structure of the education system today and how it operates, mind everybody, for anybody that doesn't know, Akron, Ohio is the creator of what is implemented nationwide as the free public education system here. So what I'm trying to say is that the model that exists, there are people it is never going to support. So why are we not giving them the same respect when they're the janitor cleaning your building because you didn't create a mold for them?
True. No,
I mean, it's a fair question you asked, Michelle. It's a fair question, right? Look, this is there's a dual side to this. You mentioned it earlier, Michelle. Let me do my quickly. So you mentioned it earlier. If the system's not going to teach your kid, then you have to teach your kid. Your kid has to learn by themselves. So that's what Philip meant when he said you have to show up for life. And I agree with him, right? But in Cornwall, the disease, I say the reality is most 90% of the kids who leave school early, as Michelle B said, and go and be construction workers, laborers, cleaners, janitors on building sites, right? I'm saying we can't necessarily leave them to it because that's a life of struggle. Being a construction worker is fine. Now, who needs education, Michelle, is a question you asked. I think everyone does, really. Because the future is in the happiness is in having a good life as adults. I don't want my kids to have a hard life. I'm sure you don't either, right? How do we do that?
But it goes back to what you said. They were the professions that you just mentioned are the children that were wrote off too early. You said it earlier.
I agree, but
we stop writing them off. That's the thing.
Yes,
stop writing them off.
How do you write them off? How do you stop writing them off?
That inequality, that inequality, there is a big thing here that it's really important that we just understand. I'm old, so you can listen to me for just a sec on this one. That inequality has always been there, right? It's always been there. And it's always been against the poor kids. Like, I've heard the stories of this one. Johnny goes to school on Tuesdays. Michael goes to school on Wednesdays because they all share the same shoes. I've heard those stories, right? And they're not stories because they've turned into films because they were real life situations, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I will tell you this. We've always had a divide. We've always had inequality, right? But that doesn't mean that we have to leave it there and go, well, that's how it's always been. What we do is we say, what makes it equal? How do we make it equal? And the way you make it equal is to make sure that everybody gets the same opportunity. Now, a child with a difference, and I'm using the word difference, no disrespect, but I'm going to say a difference, regardless of what the difference is, will struggle if it's told to fit in a mold. What we have to do is say this, and this is something my husband told me, and again, I'm hoping he's not coming home too soon. Right, a child is asked, okay? This is a lesson that he had, and he did this with his lower level maths group. You're making curry for 4 people. Here's a recipe. And they looked through and they understood the recipe. Okay, we're now going to make curry for 6 people. What do we need to do to that recipe? Right?
Yeah.
And they worked in groups and they came up with different answers. Everybody knew they needed more. That's the bottom line. So that was a great, right, we all know we need more, but it's how much more do we need, right?
Yes.
Then it was, okay, we're going shopping. That product has 25% more than that product. Do we want to buy that product? Yeah, definitely we do. Why? Well, it's 25%. How much is 25%? I don't know, but it's more. Right. So let's work out what 25% is. And then he worked with them, and he worked with them in a way like, there's the cake, that's cut it in 4, that's 25%. So that is 25. But can we afford to buy the 25? Because it's more money to buy it, but you might get more for it. Oh, hang on a minute. We've got a budget. Oh, we've got a budget. Yeah, look at the budget. No, we can't. We'll have to buy the one that we can afford. So the key issue here is we are teaching valuable, useful math. Not algebra, not Pythagoras theorem that is up here and not necessary if that isn't what they're interested in. Let's get them the skills to go out and be the best they can be at their level, and not make them feel like they're less than. Right? They're not
I agree.
less than.
Paulette, I agree entirely. Look, there's an important, there's more than this. Of course, there's important points you're making, right? What I'll take for sure is that we need to find a way to teach all kids in a way that works for them. I agree with that. That's where I am. I don't know whether I do no, because we're about to go, my friends. We're going to go to the next 5 minutes, right? So I want to know from you, what is the way to break the generational problem that we have? Now, and you're saying it, and what the generational problem is that the parents were written off a long time ago, so they didn't get the education, they didn't get to learn what they had to learn. What good parents is, right? That's number one.
Yeah.
Now the kids are going through the same thing, and they're going to leave unequipped to have a future that's going to give them a decent living. So we can't let that happen. We need to break it now. Our title says breaking generational, story that we seem to have, right? How do we do that? As I say, find a way to teach each child. And I've got a slight problem with segregation, separation, and almost having that. In England, we had this comprehensive system, and then other kids went to high school, to college, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is years ago. So thankfully that's gone. I don't want anyone to be written up and put in the lower group, because
that's exactly right.
That's just limiting their abilities, and that's judging them before they're grown up, right? How do we break this generation mode that we seem to have? That goes on forever.
Nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to become better, and nothing is going to find a solution until the ultimate truth is we have to work on ourselves. I didn't start trying to dismantle systems until I rebuilt. myself.
I mean, honestly, I didn't start advocating until I started believing in myself for my daughter. I couldn't advocate for my daughter because I am autistic. I'm a lot. If we haven't noticed, folks, try living with me. But that's the thing. People are like, well, that's just too much for me.
You have to remember, nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself.
And that's why I did, and I had to. But I am saying with our kids, we need to start making it.
We need to be the examples that we want them to be.
Not only that, but how can a teacher teach a disabled student unless they know how it feels? Unless they know exactly. And there's so many of us out here, just like myself, that can ace right through school, right through college. Unfortunately, though, when you have a disability, you can't work in the state of Nevada. And that's why I never went and got my SSIS. According to the state of Nevada, yeah, I have my mental health disabilities, but I do not claim them. And neither does my daughter, because I will not let her be put in a box. I will not let anyone tell her she is only allowed to make this much, because she will be working at a museum. She will be archiving our history, and you will not put my daughter in a box. She doesn't need anyone's social security money, and for them to say you can only keep $300, you can only do this, you can only do that. And I've molded my daughter to say, no, they can only do that, you can do anything.
Me living in poverty on disability is not for the money, for survival. I am capable of making multiple millions a year, but every service that I can provide and every system I can architect, every professional position that I'm capable of being ultra successful in doesn't come with benefits and a 501k and what is necessary medically for Angelina and I to survive.
Exactly. So how are you supposed to grow on that if you're on disability? You can't.
But the moment the income will start coming in, they're going to send a letter and they're going to say, we're stopping your money. That's cool. I don't care about the money. But that letter also is going to say, we're stopping your benefits. So when those medical benefits stop and I got to go buy an epilepsy prescription, I got to go buy my daughter's medical prescriptions, I got to go pay for the vision therapy, I got to go pay for the food therapy. Oh shit, Michelle needs another brain surgery. Oh shit, Michelle got breast cancer again. How do I pay for that? I'm forced to live in poverty because I'm dependent on a medical system that without the insurance that I am forced to keep, I wouldn't have access to.
And she said everything right there. That's the whole reason I love you, and I understand why you're on it. And it is so unfair because they have set us up for failure.
Being poor lets me survive.
You can't ever grow and become someone and get off SSIS. It's just made for you to keep rolling and rolling and rolling.
They get so many pushbacks and they get so many incentives from all of the funds that go through Medicaid and Medicare. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and then you got your family, your kids are in the same loop. They just keep going over and over and over. We need to stop that. People with disabilities, teach them tools. Get them off disability. I can tell you what, they're smarter than half the people out there right now. And I am sick of being put in a box and being told you're only allowed $600 a month. No. What pays $600?
I don't seek jobs for money. I seek jobs for the best medical benefits because I get denied life insurance because of my medical history, and I can't afford the premiums of medical insurance because of my medical history.
And you can't get a job on disability because they will not hire you if you are on disability.
All right, ladies, solutions. I can say ladies because you're all ladies.
We just told you the solution.
I'm just gonna. There is one. point here. There is one point here that you've all been making, and I've been listening as hard as I can about how we no, because it's so important when we're also we're outraged and we're angry and we want change, and I get all of that. I've got the banner too. I wave it, but the answer is we have to look at ourselves in the mirror, ask ourselves what we need to do to make our lives better for us, so we can make our lives better for our kids, to make their lives better for them. It's all about that mirror image, right? And then it takes one other stage, which is this: kindness. Okay, if you can teach kindness, and that is not difficult to an autistic or a ND person, kindness comes naturally because they don't know badness. They don't know lies. They don't know negative, because they only live in their world, which is, well, why wouldn't I help them? Of course I'd help them. You know, that's the thought process. Now, this is what I'm going to say to you. Kindness always wins. I swear to you that's true. I swear it's true. Okay. I got angry then, Annie. Did you hear the voice? I swear it's true.
You're poor Letty. You never get angry.
Take that kindness, okay, and turn it into power. Because when you say to your child, you go out there and you be the kindest you can be. All right. Doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. You just be you. You just be kind. And you, as an example parent, are kind. Kindness is self-perpetuating. And the more that we show our children that kindness, the more we show them the world can be kind. Because what they've seen so far is pretty effing awful, right? And we need to change that. And that starts in the home with you in that mirror, saying, I am going to show my child about how to be kind. And
my
when
dad,
we do that,
always said, kill him with kindness.
absolutely, absolutely.
Always.
And so,
It was always said.
and the teachers who get so frustrated and whatever, if the child says, I'm really sorry, I didn't get it, I'm really asking for help, please, you know what, they're gonna get that help 10 times over. The kid that goes up and goes, I didn't get that, you're a shit teacher, you know what, they're not going to get the help. So it's about the reason. Some teachers who get 2 or 3 days teaching on how to teach children with disabilities or neurodivergence, they're relying on the TAs, the teaching assistants. They're relying on the support in the classroom to do that, to fill in the gap. So I'm telling you, they didn't get taught how to teach them. They don't know how to teach them. The only thing they do know is they're always the kid that's honest. They're always the kid that says he did it. They're always the kid that says, oh yeah, they were throwing the ball around. This was Ben. They were throwing the ball around, and then I was the last one to catch it. It's like, okay, Ben, you know what? You're always going to be a whistleblower, son. But can you learn to be quieter about it, right? Now, this is the point. Killing them with kindness is the only way. And if we can teach kindness to our children, they will reflect that in that mirror. Because people will say they're always polite, they're always kind, they're always the nicest kid in the class. They're not the angry kid. They're not the kid throwing tantrums left, right, and center. And quite often, Charles will tell you he couldn't even name half the people in his class, because you knew the ones that are really smart, you knew the ones that were driving you crazy because they were always misbehaving, and the kids in the middle of the road who just got on with the work and did it. You had to think about them because they're almost grey. And I'm not, that's a cruel thing to say, but they're almost grey because they just they get by. They do it. They turn up with their work. It gets done.
That's right.
You don't
Yeah.
have to scream and shout at them, right? So this is where I'm saying, let's say the kids at the top of the class, the kids at the bottom of the class. It doesn't matter where your kid is. If your child is polite, is kind, shows empathy to others, you know what? That will take them a long way. It's the biggest lesson you can give them.
I agree. Kindness will open doors. LinkedIn user, please. I don't know which one you are. I can't really see you on my LinkedIn. But if you put your name there, I would know. Let me welcome Luz as well. Thank you for joining us, Luz. Always great to see you. Superstar Linda Gray is here as well. Thank you so much for joining us. We are about to go. So look, I say teach them in their unique ways, in their own way to learn, the way they learn best. That's half the answer. We can't just leave them to be, because if we leave them to be, we're just perpetuating generational trauma that will carry on, right? Linda, this is so good. Yeah, the geniuses I have on stage, that's why, right? Thank you so much for your kind words. Michelle's, what's your one big thing? Is there a one big thing?
My one big thing is that when you decide to step into advocating for yourself and your child, do it with an unwavering acceptance that you got to find the comfort in the discomfort, and you got to be disciplined, and you have to have courage.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I think it's work. It's work that we have to do. It's work that our kids have to do as well.
I mean, there's times you feel defeated and you want to quit, but you got to always remember the why. Why did you start?
I take us back to Philip's point earlier. We have to be there for show up for life for our kids. That's the truth. Especially those who have an ND or LD. I'm saying we have to. We have a role to play, and let's play that role. Now, let's not abdicate. Let's not do the laissez-faire parent. Let's not sort of disappear. So our kids will struggle, and that's not on them. That's on us, right?
And if anybody at System is listening, I want to say, no response is worse than a no.
I agree with you.
I love you, Michelle. I didn't mean to get so upset. I get very passionate when it comes to my daughter. Very passionate. She's the reason I have gone around the world to every university and to every psychiatrist. And I am just here saying, let's bridge the gap. It's going to be hard, folks. It's going to be scary. Both sides want the same thing, but you both want it written different. Maybe there's no right way to write it. And maybe we just bridge that gap, because everything else in statistics has showed us nothing has worked. And that's why we're going through what we're going through right now. We're not here telling anyone, you're bad. You're a bad mom. You're a bad drug dealer. No, what we're saying is, let's bridge the gap so we don't have drug dealers. Let's bridge the gap so we have kids that go through school. And it does take a village to do this. And again, I'm going to throw out Nevada PEP. Parents empowering parents. And we do it every week. And us parents talk to each other, and Nevada PEP puts it on for us. And we get to share what worked with their child. I've always thrown it out. Hormones. What do we do? I'm like, my daughter, help me out here, folks. And they're just like, we got you, Michelle. Yeah, this is what worked with our son, And we even have parents in there like me now, that their kids are grown, that they're there for these new parents, that their children are unique. And they're like, well, hey, this worked for my child. And I do feel every state needs a Nevada PEP, parents, empowering parents, so that way they can hear us. That way we're not on lawns in our pajamas, cracked out, fighting at our schools for our kids against each other.
Yeah,
I don't
that's not a cool. That's not a cool look, right? Look,
it happens all the time. No.
And he doesn't want banned with that word.
Dr.
And
Roxana,
I'm
I'm
happy
glad
with
you're here. You know, Dr. Roxana, I wish we could hear your thoughts, and how you do strategies, especially given that you're an educator in schools. I'd love to know how you cater for kids who don't fit the mold.
you know what? The
I
best
really want.
let me say this. Kendra worked for Nevada Pep. I never knew she had a master's in teaching until one day I cut down a teacher. And she was like, whoa, wait a minute here. I got my master's in teaching and you're sitting here asking me how to take care of your, And I was like, holy moly, you're right. She goes, it has nothing to do with me. This has to do with people learning, education. She goes, so I'm going to teach you how to advocate. And you go out there and advocate. Don't lobby, advocate. And you know what? That woman has climbed the ladder and now she works for NAN after school program using her master's. And I'm very proud of her. And I will always throw out Kendra.
I'm glad you're here. And so Linda, I think we'll leave you with your message. Yes, we need courage and discipline, as Michelle said earlier.
Yes.
Look, my friends, our next show starts in half an hour, so we really must go. You're all welcome to join us in the menopause conversation. We're talking about how to eat healthier in midlife and in menopause. Even when you don't want to, Michelle, that's even when you don't want to eat. You still not, and that's for both Michelle's, to be fair, right?
I forget. So, yes.
Yeah, right. So come and learn how not to forget. And Michelle, come and learn how not to lose 280 pounds. That's very careless of you.
Right now, she's got a storm.
I'm being funny. Right. My friends, we have to go, right? Jay said, I didn't fit the mold. Parent-teacher conferences were tough on me. I could grasp concepts, but my mind would see it in several different ways. So this is a neurodivergence, and this is the reality of kids, right? This is the reality. Yes. I'm so glad you joined us. Look, if you missed the show, please watch the replay. As Linda says, this is so good. That is true. So if you missed most of the conversation, please watch the replay.
Come and join us.
Yeah, no, not today. You can't join us. Otherwise, Lisa might pull her hair out.
Anytime.
And come find us again, like she did last week. She come and go, I'm looking for my speakers, my hosts, and my co-hosts. Look, we're going to Lisa's room in half an hour. Do join us. I'm probably going to send you a link anyway. So we're back here in 2 weeks' time. I don't know whether we have done enough to find a solution today, but I've got some ideas, right? You're right. Now, I don't know whether we should do a second one on this, just on solutions, Paulette. Now, I'm thinking we should. Now, we need to find real. I love people to leave real idea. So we may come back next week with a continued conversation and trying to find how do we break the mold? How do we respond to this issue of kids not fitting in, or our expectations?
And Annie, there's something to say here, and this is that it's now a worldwide problem. It's not an American problem.
Yeah,
it's not a UK problem.
As a public health crisis.
It's a good thing.
That's
hang on.
It's a public world global health crisis.
It's a good thing. The more you say that the global element, say, look, when I grew up in Nigeria, and this is if you had a kid who had any sort of neurodivergence or mental health, they just used to tie them up. Tie them up to a tree and leave them there all day, literally like a dog.
I heard about
that. Now they have the same issue. Says at least they've realized that you can't. That's not how you look after neurodivergent children. That's just not how you do it, right? That's not going to work. So, now that the world has a problem, Paulette, I'm hoping that people start looking for a solution or solutions. So. We'll get there. Then let's bring it back next time and let's talk about solutions specifically. So, and we'd love to have some more of the audience join us for that conversation. So
We have
please
Dr. Clark next week.
Oh, excellent. So we're having a bullying expert. So we're talking bullying next week. And then we'll then say that our session after that, then we'll bring this conversation back. So please, my friends, have a think. How do we break the mold? I'm asking, we'd love to learn from you. And don't forget, this room is all about writing Michelle B's book. No, but let's talk neurodivergence, advice for parents and strategies for them to get our kids to have a better life, right? So do join us again. Dr. Lisa says, love the convo today, very passionate. Okay. I didn't say much, Lisa. It was them. These are my genius friends here who say everything, right? Linda says, yes, I will try and join. Education in the US is crucial right now. Never been more so, my friend, never been more so. My friends, thank you so much. Let me play our outgoing music and we'll see you in Lisa's room next. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
She's success with Global.Media.com and celebrating with or without champagne or rum. She's success with Global.Media.com.